In Our Expert Opinion podcast is brought to you by Saunders Real Estate, the Southeast's leading land and commercial real estate firm, helping clients make bold and informed investment decisions since 1996.
Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of In Our Expert Opinion podcast. Today, I'm joined by one of our internal experts, none other than Mr. Austin Fisher. Austin, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here. Thank you. Been a long time listener, but it's my first time as a guest. So
long time, first time. So
yeah, that's right.
Excited you're here. Austin serves as our managing director of our Georgia team and has for some time and been a part of our firm for a while. So we're happy we were able to get him on the podcast. Austin, for people who are listening for the first time, hearing your voice for the first time on this podcast, talk a little bit about yourself, your background, your role here with Saunders, and then we'll kind of get into some of the discussion.
Great. So I've been with Saunders since about late 2022, and basically came from more of a development investment analysis background, but before that served as an attack helicopter pilot in the military for about 11 and a half years. So quite a change of pace.
If you've done that, you can't be nervous on this podcast, right?
That's right. That's right. But yeah, always had a passion for real estate, love land, and this is it's been a good fit. So glad to be part of the Saunders Real Estate team.
Yeah, and it's been fun to have you. I mean, we've become really good friends over the years, and you have a Lakeland connection as well. Your sister lives here in Lakeland, Florida, I believe, which is kind of fun.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. We're happy you've been here and the time's flown by. You've been here 3 years, which is kind of crazy. So, just kind of wanted you to get into a little bit of our Georgia team. How is Saunders, our brand, our platform, our team in Georgia, started to distinguish itself in Georgia? Talk a little bit about the team that we have in place and kind of what some of the properties are that we've worked on, the types of land deals that we have kind of in the hopper up there, if you will. Just kind of give people a bit of background on the team, the makeup of them, our specialty areas, locations, things like that.
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, we pride ourselves as advisors, as you know, Tyler, and what that means to us is we are all individually experts in a certain field or area. So we have a diverse background and a lot of experience. I've got 4 or 5 registered foresters that are on the team. We've got 5 or 6 accredited land consultants on the team. So highly qualified people that are specialized in every asset class that there is. Also on top of that is we're spread, throughout the region geographically. So we have, healthy coverage in some, markets that, have been rather fragmented by other land brokerage outfits.
Yeah, I think, my viewpoint on the state of our Georgia team is, one, it's really high quality guys and high quality producers and people who've been in the business for a long time. And for the most part, and the people who are kind of newer to the business are producing and doing great. And we're super proud of them and their growth. And right now, Austin, the footprint of the team is basically from Macon, Perry, South, correct?
That's correct. Yep. So basically from, the Atlantic Ocean all the way over to the Alabama line. We do bleed over into the Florida Panhandle. So we have a presence there as well. But we're the big thing that you said, and I would agree with, is we're more about quality over quantity. And so, each advisor prides himself to be an expert and really it prepares us to be ready to field any type of property that, comes through the door. If it's in a region where we may not have an expert, then we'll bring one in to co-list with and so on and so forth, just so we have that appropriate coverage and expertise with every client and every property that we interact with.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. I mean, when I look at Georgia, I grew up in Georgia, outside Atlanta, and you look at some of the things that have changed over the last 10 or 15 years, 20 years in the state, and it's grown tremendously, right? And so that's made it a far more attractive place for investors. As Atlanta's grown, capital in Atlanta's grown, I'm sure that's put more pressure on recreational land in South Georgia. And just talk a little bit about what you've seen over the last several years here, but even before that, kind of from a development land background, what have you seen change in Georgia? What's kind of the current status of the Georgia land market? And, how have we kind of built the team around being able to service people with no matter what they're interested in or what type of land that they're interested in.
Yeah. So, all in all, the Georgia market is strong. We've got a governor that's very pro-growth, economic development. He's brought in a lot of manufacturing, increased the presence of transportation and logistics. We have two prominent ports on the eastern seaboard, and really are positioned well as far as economic development is concerned. And also, when it comes to, our forestry presence, we are the number one forestry state in the nation. We have,
which catches people by surprise, I think.
It does. And we're also the number one in the nation for privately held lands. So, we encourage private land ownership. We're the largest producer of seedlings, and our growth of our timber basket is 48% over our harvest. And so what that means is that we're growing more than we're cutting. So, the outlook for that is strong. So we're very proud of our trees here in Georgia.
Yeah. And then, as our team, you're based in Thomasville, and you're one of the first people that came on board with us in Georgia. In Thomasville, a lot of our land practice kind of in and around South Georgia has been probably more ag, timber, rural focused projects. And as we've grown further north and further over towards Savannah, talk a little bit about the development land that we've worked on. Tom Tuggle, obviously, up in Perry on our team, is selling a lot of transitional development land. You're doing a lot as well. Some of the other guys on our team are in some of these areas. But as we move further north, kind of start touching the outskirts of Atlanta, talk a little bit about transitional land, what you've seen in Georgia in different markets, and how much more interest there is in some of those properties, in some of those markets, just with the amount of population moving there, the economic development that you mentioned. Talk a little bit about the transitional side of development land and kind of how our team services those people. Sure.
You're exactly right. Some of these, auxiliary, towns and cities are exploding right now. We're seeing much of what we saw in Florida, 50, 60 years ago. And I think that's a good model for as Georgia continues to grow, bleeds out of Atlanta. We're also having, Savannah, you mentioned that. But as some of these growth markets appear, one of the biggest constraints is that they're outgrowing their infrastructure rapidly. And so, what we look for in transitional lands is obviously properties that are well suited with infrastructure, with being water, sewer, and then obviously favorable zoning. But it's happening at a rapid pace, and some of the municipalities are having a rather difficult time keeping up with that growth.
Yeah, and that's the same story here in Florida. I think there are a lot of parallels between Florida 30 years ago, as you mentioned, and Georgia now, right? I think the Southeast has continued to grow, and post-COVID, people have obviously relocated to Florida and Texas, but also Georgia. Georgia's been a big winner coming out of that. And so I think the secret's out a little bit, and I'm not sure you're going to be able to put it back in the bag there. So it'll be interesting to watch how a lot of these municipalities that probably are pro-growth right now, how that changes over time as growth continues. And we're experiencing that in Florida, right, where there's several cities, Lakeland, others being some of them where, 5 or 6 years it was, you could get projects done. And now it's, we're at capacity from a utility standpoint, or we have a moratorium on water, sewer, or whatever else it is. And it's getting harder to get projects done from a development transitional land perspective. And so it's having a really interesting impact on housing and where businesses relocate to, and all those issues that we're experiencing in Florida. I think Georgia is starting to experience those. And it's not just in your major cities, right, like Atlanta or Savannah or Augusta or wherever, but places like Carrollton, where I grew up. I know Thomasville's grown tremendously as well. So it's kind of interesting to look at some of these more rural tertiary markets outside of these major metros and the impact that growth is having on them.
Yeah, and to kind of dovetail off of that, it's not just single family, residential developments, that are coming. It's data centers, right? We have very affordable power. Our land, comparative to some of these other markets, is very affordable. We've got solar that has a big presence, especially in the Southwest Georgia area. So, it's not just, it's just going to be, it's just going to be
national home builders.
Correct. Right. And, obviously as you get closer to the ports, then we have more of an industrial presence and, with the cost of logistics, closer to the port, arguably is a much better place to be. So a lot of things going on. Transitional is looking great for Georgia. And, I imagine that growth will continue over the next several years.
Yeah. And I know, just for anybody that's listening, like one thing that our firm has really prided itself on and want to continue in every market we go into is being able to help not just on hunting land, ag land, recreation land, timber, things like that, but we really want to be able to service your transitional land needs as well. And so we've built out our team in Georgia to do that. And as we grow into Atlanta, the people we're going to bring on probably are going to be more transitional land focused just because that's what's very common in their markets where they're at.
Certainly, and kind of our approach is, once we, go to do a proposal, or we, first take a property to analyze it. The first question is, well, what is the highest and best use, right? And just because it's in plant and pine production now doesn't necessarily mean that, there's not a higher value that we can unlock by producing or, pursuing it as a development track, or, possibly it's more as a recreational track, which often demands a higher value than just a straight leg planted, pine plantation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so we do try to evaluate properties for, several different uses. And with the amount of change that's happening in the Southeast and Georgia in particular, I think you kind of have to keep your head on a swivel a little bit just to see where the trends are headed, what's going on, in different markets, and, stay up to date on it. And just because something's been something one way for the last 30 or 40 years doesn't mean that's going to be the use for the next 20 or 30, And so
that's exactly right.
I think, one of the things that we have kind of prided ourselves on over the years has been our Georgia market report. And I've got a copy of it here, hot off the press. I think you guys have some in Georgia as well. But Austin, talk a little bit about the market report, why it's an important publication for landowners in Georgia. This is our second market report that we've put out. Our first one was last year. This one, hot off the market, is for the 2024 year, published this year in 2025. But it's tell the audience a little bit about the Georgia market report. A lot of our Georgia audience is probably a little bit newer to it than in Florida, where we've done it for 10 or 15 years. So just at a high level, explain to people what's important about this publication, how it helps landowners, how it helps our team, and how it helps us get credibility as a firm, in the state of Georgia.
Yeah, and so with our market report, to me, probably the best feature is the verified sales. Typically, it's included in the back of the book. We do it for just about every asset class, and a lot of the articles that are written by different advisors on our team speak to the data in order to help folks determine what is current market prices. It's not just for a select few counties in the state of Georgia. It's a much more wider than that. And so just because you live here in Thomasville doesn't necessarily mean that it's a Thomasville only report, right? And so our research analysts there in Lakeland, they go through and they scour through sales and actually get on the phone and verify these sales with landowners. And so what that does is it cuts out a lot of the the sales that might have been to a family member, or there might have been an austere reason that it sold for a lower price, and so we're able to get those out of there and really get a real time current evaluation of what is happening in the market. And so ideally over the years, as we continue to roll out each yearly edition, we'll have a baseline from when we started, and people can see how land values are moving throughout a period of time. So it's a very effective tool. We've got certain clients in Florida that have, they've been collecting these things for years. And so they've become, quite the following, if you will. And it looks good on a coffee table too. So
it does. And, I think in Florida, what we've been able to do is just, we have 10 or 15 years of data. And so now we can look at, over the last 15 years, like you mentioned, for every type of land, every asset class, how much things have grown in terms of value, and that's and transaction volume. And so that's a way to attract investment and deals to the state, right? Is to show, hey, the land values have grown this much over the last 10 or 15 years. Here's the annual appreciation. And like you said, these are verified sale data, right? These are verified sales that our research team, you've heard Zane on this podcast before. He leads that team, but has built a great process for verifying these sales and making sure that they are arm's length and that we have the numbers right. And so outliers are kind of tossed out, by going through and doing that. So nothing is perfect, right? Our data, our analysis is only as good as the sales that are reported, the data that we're able to collect from counties and different mapping systems. And but our goal is that we have verified enough. We have enough sales in here where we do have a kind of materially accurate analysis of the Georgia land market for the prior year, and big enough population, big enough sample size, things like that. And so the way this book is broken down by asset type, land type. And so timber, development land, farmland, recreation land, ranches, things like that. And each of our Georgia team members who are the experts on that specific asset class, back to your point earlier, they're advisors on a specific specialty area. They write the article based on the data, based on what they're seeing and hearing from clients. And so every one of these articles is written and published by our team members in Georgia. And so we think it's going to have a lot of longevity, and it's a big part of what we've done in Florida and a big part of what we're going to do in Georgia and some of our other markets moving forward. So if you would like a copy of that, visit layofthelandreport.com. There's also links on our website, saundersland.com. We'll put some of this in the show notes, or reach out to Austin Fisher or myself via email, and we can certainly get a copy of it to you electronically, and we can mail copies as well. So, Austin, let's shift gears.
Tyler, if I could add one thing about the verified sale process, is that process is happening continuously throughout the year. Mm-hmm. And so it's real-time data. And so it may be August, and we need to go do a proposal, but we have the data that has happened up until that point. And so
that's right.
We use it in our daily, evaluations. And then obviously at the end of the year, we publish it in a more, buttoned up, put together report. But yeah, I just want to throw it out there that it is an evolving process throughout the year where we are tracking this data.
Right. It's being done in real time. And I was actually looking at some of the data in a few states yesterday with Zane. We were going through and just looking at how things compared to last year by asset type and region of the state. And we're starting to, I'll put a little teaser out here. We are going to start doing quarterly publications, probably just one Southeast quarterly publication each quarter of here's what our team has verified for that quarter. Kind of each state has a page or two in this overall book. And so our goal is to get landowners up-to-date, real-time, verified sale information to really help them understand the value of the assets that they own or that they're looking at buying. There's been several instances. The largest transaction our firm ever did, the St. Joe Mormon Church deal, this book was influential in making that happen. There's a whole story there. I'll let Dean share it at some point. But in essence, one transaction did not happen because they realized the value that they would be paying for a large transaction was 25% more than what the verified sale data said in our market report. And so this publication directly led to the largest land transaction in the state's history in Florida. And so there's kind of a neat history with this publication in Florida. And we're so excited to see the impact it can have and the help it can bring to landowners, people who are wanting to get into acquiring land as well, just to understand the assets and the values that they're buying. So let's transition a little bit, talk a little bit about the upcoming Georgia Land Conference. It's going to be on August 21st at the Biscuit Company there in Thomasville, just outside downtown. We're super excited about it. It's our second year doing it. Austin, can you kind of give the audience a little bit of a teaser on the conference, some of the things we're going to talk about, who should attend, that sort of thing?
Yeah, sure. So our inaugural conference was last year. And, we modeled it very similar to the Florida conference. It's been happening for, how many years has it been now?
Probably 15 years or so.
Yeah.
We found some archive footage, Michael, from like 2005. Maybe it's been 20 years now. I think it's 19 or 20. We saw a video of Dean from 2005 with, he still had gray hair, but he looked a lot younger, getting up and talking at the first ever Saunders Land Conference. So you're right. It's been a while in Florida.
It being our inaugural, it was big shoes to fill, coming behind the Florida conference. But no, it's a great way for, landowners, investors, land stewards, professionals in the land space to come together and hear from different panelists and guest speakers. And we'll talk more about some of the headwinds that landowners face. We'll talk about trends and possible solutions to optimize highest and best use, and really what we're seeing boots on the ground in the market. We'll have lunch provided, and it'll be a great time to network as well. But really, really excited to get together and to bring some information to all the folks that are in attendance.
Yeah, and there's nothing salesy about it, right? Like, I think people see a real estate firm putting on a conference and think we're going to pressure people to sign a listing agreement or something, but we really just want to network and share information and share what's going on in the market and what's going on with certain commodities and crops and products, and try to be a source, right? Try to be a information source for landowners, stewards, people in complementary industries to land and real estate. And our firms at Saunders Land, our goal is to be the most trusted and knowledgeable land professionals in the markets we serve. And I think the conference is a big part of that. And last year's Georgia conference was great, Austin. I think we had 130 people or something like that for the first time doing it. It was kind of a rainy day in Thomasville. And so I think just we keep doing it year over year, it'll get even better each year. We'll make tweaks along the way. So
yeah, and if I could sit on one thing, Tyler, you're exactly right. It is not salesy. It's definitely more educational, and really what it facilitates is a great opportunity for the folks in attendance to engage with experts out in the field, and that's not just advisors. That's specialists and different types. Maybe somebody in the seedling industry, right? And they can engage and ask questions and collaborate. And so it's just a great time to come together. And we all love land, and we're all stewards of land, and to celebrate that together and do that collectively. So we're really looking forward to it.
Thinking through who all attended last year, I mean, it was everybody from engineers to large landowners to farmers to national home builders came, developers came. It's everything that touches land. Land use attorneys were there, and lenders were there, and so appraisers. So it's really almost everything that kind of touches land in some form or fashion. There's content there that will be applicable to you and informative to you.
Well said.
So again, if you would like more information, please visit saundersland.com/Georgia-conference, saundersland.com. There'll be links there to some of our events, as well as our second Georgia market report. And so, Austin, is there anything else you want to add just about Georgia, the team, in conclusion?
I think the next step is to see everyone at the conference, and looking forward to engaging with our greater Florida team as well as those in attendance. And it's a great time to buy land in Georgia. And that's about all I have. Thank you for having me again. It's been great being with you. Finally.
Well said. Thank you so much for joining us, Austin, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening to In Our Expert Opinion Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss any of our upcoming episodes. For more on land and commercial real estate, please connect with us at saundersrealestate.com.